Friends, the topic which I am going to discuss is elements, compounds, mixture. This is its part one. So first of all, we have to understand what is matter. Matter is anything which has mass, occupies space, and can be perceived by our senses. For example, this table, book, eraser, all these are matter, right? Matter is basically classified into two types of substances, pure and impure. Pure substances are further classified into elements and compounds, impure as mixtures. Then elements are further classified into metals, non-metals, metalloids and noble gases. So what are elements? Element is basically the purest substance which cannot be broken down further into simpler substances. It is always made up of through only one kind of atom. Compounds are also pure substances which are made up of through either two elements or atoms which are combined in a definite proportion. The components in a compound can be separated through chemical methods. Mixture is an impure substance, right, which is made up of two elements or compounds and are not combined together in a fixed proportion. The components in a mixture can be separated manually, means by physical methods, right? So an atom is then further divided into subatomic particles, right? If you see the structure of an atom at the center there is a nucleus. It consists of positively charged particles known as protons and particles carrying no charge known as neutrons. Orbit surrounds the nucleus in which the negatively charged particles known as electrons revolve. Now, in the periodic table up to the atomic number 20, right, there are some metals like lithium, beryllium, sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, aluminium, and sodium. Then metalloids, boron, and silicon. Non-metals like carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, fluorine, phosphorus, sulfur, and noble gases helium, neon, argon, right? Now there is a difference between metals and non-metals. Like metals have luster, non-metals do not have luster. Metals are malleable, they are non-malleable. They are ductile, they are non-ductile. They are made up of monoatomic molecules. They are made up of through monoatomic or diatomic molecules. They are having high boiling and melting point. They are having low boiling and melting point. They have high density. They have low density. They are good conductors of electricity. They are poor conductors of electricity. Now there are some certain exceptions, right? For example, mercury. Mercury is a metal, though it is in liquid state. Zinc is a metal, though it is non-malleable and non-ductile. Iodine is a non-metal, but still it is lustrous. Graphite is a non-metal which is both lustrous and good conductor of electricity. There are also certain differences between metalloids and noble gases. Like metalloids, they are basic, they consist a certain type of elements which contains the properties of both metals and non-metals. Noble gases are basically such type of gases which are present in small amount and traces of air, means very they are present in very less amount. Similarly, metalloids are highly reactive, noble gases are not so much reactive, and metalloids are made up of through monatomic molecules and noble gases are made up of through diatomic molecules. Now see, now we will read the study molecule. What is a molecule? When atoms of two or different elements combine together, they form a molecule. A molecule is basically a substance which can exist independently and can retain the physical and chemical characteristics of a substance. Now, from molecule, we get the term atomicity. What is atomicity? The number of atoms of each element which combines together to form a molecule is known as atomicity. Now, see, molecules which are made up of through one kind of atom, they are known as monatomic molecules. These single atoms can retain the characteristics of a substance. They are basically metals and noble gases only. Similarly, molecules will consist of two atoms. They are known as diatomic molecules. They are mostly usually non-metals only, oxygen, nitrogen and all. Metals which have more than three atoms, they are known as polyatomic molecules like ozone and phosphorus. Ozone molecule is O3, phosphorus is P4. Now molecule of a compound, when molecules of different elements, right, when molecules of different elements are there, atoms when their atoms combine together in a chemical reaction or in a fixed proportion, they form a molecule. For example, if I talk about the molecule carbon dioxide, there are two different elements, carbon and oxygen, right? And the elements are also different, and the type of atoms are also different, because on the first hand we have carbon atoms, on the next hand we have oxygen atoms, and they combine in a fixed proportion. See, carbon dioxide formula is CO2, that is two atoms of oxygen combines with one atom of carbon forms a molecule CO2. Then these small CO2 molecules combine, they form a compound known as CO2, right? Now what is a compound? A compound is a purest substance, as I have told you, which is made up of two or more elements or atoms which are combined together in a fixed proportion. Now there are some certain properties of a compound. First of all, they are all of same kind. They are homogeneous. They have definite properties. Components in a compound can be separated through chemical methods. Compounds have their own definite set of properties, and the components in a compound cannot retain their original properties. Similarly, if components in a compound, for example, if I talk about in the compound iron sulfide, now from here we cannot remove iron. That can only occur through chemical methods. But if we take a mixture of it, then we can simply remove iron by physical methods. By taking a bar magnet, iron will be attracted and sulfur will be left behind. Now there is also some difference points between elements and compound. Right, if I talk, right friends, if I like talk about elements, so they are made up of only to one kind of atoms. Compounds are made up of to two or more elements combined together in a fixed proportion. Elements cannot be broken down into simpler substances, but components in a compound can be separated through chemical methods. Similarly, the third point is that elements have their own definite set of properties. For example, if I take carbon and oxygen, carbon is combustible, oxygen is a supporter of combustion. But in carbon dioxide, the elements are not able to retain their properties, because when carbon combines with oxygen, it forms carbon dioxide, which is neither combustible nor supporter of combustion. This is the basic difference. Then if I talk about mixtures, what are mixtures? Mixtures are basically impure substances which are formed when two or more elements or compounds combine together in any definite proportion, they form mixtures. But components in a mixture can retain their original identity. Now let me tell you a mixture how to form gunpowder, that is brass plus salt solution gives us gunpowder. Brass is made up of two copper zinc plus salt solution, that is NaCl plus water. Then it is sulfur plus charcoal plus potassium nitrate. All these together forms gunpowder. Then there are some mixtures are of two types, homogeneous and heterogeneous. There are also some variation points in it. Homogeneous are those mixtures which can uniformly mixed. Heterogeneous are those mixtures which cannot be uniformly mixed. Homogeneous, there is no variation in composition while mixing. Heterogeneous, there is variation in composition while mixing. Now there are certain like examples of it. For example, solid if we take, right? No, not solid. Yes, solid. Like brass is a homogeneous mixture, but iron sulfur mixture is a heterogeneous mixture. Then solid liquid, like for homogeneous salt and water, For heterogeneous, it is sand and water. Liquid, liquid. For homogeneous, it is alcohol and water. For heterogeneous, it is, you can take anything like water, oil, water, kerosene. Air, air. In homogeneous, it is one, that is air only, gases. Now, there are also some variation points between compounds and mixtures. Like compounds, they are having a definite set of properties. Mixtures do not have a definite set of properties. Components in a compound can be separated through chemical methods, but components in a mixture, they can be separated through physical methods. Compounds, then the basic difference between compounds and mixtures is that compounds are basically made up of through definite proportion of elements, but mixtures are made up of through an indefinite proportion of elements and compounds, right? Then there's a reaction, like we said that when we add some mixture, like, so when hydrogen gas will be released, it will be, this reaction will not occur in a compound, it will only occur in a mixture. Then now I will come to a final point. Now I will come to some of types of mixtures, or you can say methods to separate various types of mixtures. If I talk about solid solid, so there are various processes. For example, sublimation, fractional crystallization, magnetization, and solvent liquid extraction. First of all, I will discuss about sublimation. It is basically based upon the difference of sublimable and non-sublimable solids. Magnetization, it is basically based upon the difference of magnetic and non-magnetic particles. Solvent liquid extraction, it is basically based upon the difference of soluble and insoluble solid. And fractional crystallization, it depends upon the solubility, like which substance is more soluble. Then if I talk about solid liquid, there are four processes, various processes like filtration, sedimentation, evaporation, and distillation. Filtration, examples like calcium carbonate and water. Sedimentation, sand and water. Distillation, sodium chloride and water. And evaporation, we can take salt and water. And even for distillation, you can also take lead nitrate and water, right? Now I will discuss about each and every theorem. First of all, let me discuss about, for example, then if I talk about some liquid liquid mixtures, there are there are two processes, that is separating funnel, and the second one is fractional distillation. In separating funnel, it is basically based upon the densities of two immiscible liquids, and fractional distillation, it is basically based upon the boiling points of substances. And how to remove gas from water, that is basically based upon the dissolubility of gas in water. Separation of gases, there are again is two processes. First is diffusion, which is based upon the porous partition through passage. Second is solubility of gas. Now some certain complicated mixtures, to separate them there are basically two essential processes. First is chromatography, second thing is centrifugation. Now chromatography is basically based upon the separation of various solid constituents from a liquid, from a solvent, and centrifugation means like separating the mixtures by a force known as centrifugal force, which is exerted by a revolving object. Now I will tell you step by step about each process. First of all, let us discuss about sublimation. What happens is, sublimation is, for example, you have taken an evaporating dish, and and in that evaporation dish there is a mixture of ammonium chloride and sodium chloride. Above that evaporating dish you have placed a funnel, and above, at the opening of the funnel, you have placed a cotton. When you will heat it, what will happen, that ammonium chloride will evaporate. Because of cotton, it will get condensed, and after some times you can find small tiny particles of ammonium chloride. Then magnetization, you have taken a bowl and you have placed a mixture of iron and sulfur. If you will take a bar magnet, iron will get attracted and sulfur will be left behind. Then solvent liquid extraction. For example, we have taken an evaporating for a beaker we have mixed the mixture of sulfur and charcoal. When we will pass it through a funnel with a filter paper, the charcoal will stick to the filter paper and the sulfur along with water will be collected in the beaker. On heating, water will evaporate. We can again get back sulfur. Fractional crystallization, it is basically based upon the solubility, which one is more soluble. For example, if you talk about potassium nitrate and potassium chlorate, potassium nitrate is more soluble than potassium chlorate, right? So we have mixed the mixture, and first of all we have to heat it to obtain a saturated solution. If we will cool it, so the less soluble substance will get crystallized. Then when we will pass it through the filter paper, the less soluble substance will stick on the paper, it will be recrystallized, and the filtrate we can obtain on the beaker. When we will heat and cool this beaker, so finally at the last we are able to obtain the more soluble substance, it gets crystallized. Then evaporation is a very simple process. We have taken an evaporating dish with a mixture of sodium chloride and water. When you will heat it, water will evaporate, salt will be left. Then distillation. In distillation, very simple. For example, we have taken lead nitrate and water. Lead, if in a we have placed the mixture in a distillation flask, when you will heat it, water will evaporate and we can get the pure form of water in the receiver, while lead nitrate will be left behind in the distillation flask. Then separating funnel. In separating funnel, what happens is that, for example, you have taken a it's like funnel only with a pipe, for example, the tap at the bottom, and you have placed a mixture of kerosene and water. Since water is heavier, it will come down. By opening the tap, we can easily obtain it in the beaker, and kerosene will left behind in the separating funnel. Then very important, fractional distillation. See, in fractional distillation, we put the mixture in distillation flask, but there is one more good example and apparatus known as fractionating column. When we will heat it, the methyl alcohol will evaporate through the fractionating column. What is the function of fractionating column? That is condensation and separation of vapors. Methyl alcohol will pass through the fractionating column. Through the Liebig's condenser, it will get condensed, and finally we can attain it in the receiver, while water will be still boiling because its boiling point is higher than methyl alcohol. Then a next process known as sedimentation. What happens is, in process we have taken sand and water. The sand particles will come down and the pure form of water you can attain on the upper side of the beaker. Pour this pure form of water in a new beaker, you can finally attain a pure form of water. Now, major important two processes: chromatography and centrifugal, or you can say centrifugation, right? In chromatography, what happens? It is basically based upon the difference and separation of various solid constituents in an adsorbent medium, that is the VCD particles, that is on the filter paper, right? For example, you have taken a filter paper, a dye of ink, you have put a spot on the filter paper. When you will hung it at the lower inside the solvent will pass, and you can see that various components will be separated. Now, in centrifugal force, there are two examples: a mill and a cream mill, right? Centrifugal force is basically a force which is exerted by a revolving object away from the center of rotation, right? In this, what happens that the less dense component will migrate towards the axis of the centrifuge, while the more dense component will migrate away from the axis of centrifuge. With this, our chapter is finished. Thank you. Have a nice day.